Welcome to Speaking of Grace, the weekly message podcast from the WholeLife Church in Orlando, Florida. We're a multi-ethnic, multicultural, and multi-generational congregation committed to our mission of loving people into a lifelong friendship with God. We are committed to our vision of being a church without walls, fully engaged in serving the people of our community. Thank you for joining us as we continue Speaking of Grace.
Do you ever make a horrible discovery too late? I realized I left my glasses up in my office. I'm going to be reading this during second service. All right. It's like, wait a minute, why is everything so blurry? That wasn't how the sermon was supposed to start. I will restart here. My absolute favorite city to visit in the United States is Washington, D.C. And the reason for that is I love all the museums, all the history. I am a history nerd. But most of all, I love the monuments. Whether it's the Martin Luther King Monument, with the I Have a Dream speech on it, the Vietnam Memorial that I watched my dad cry over as he looked at names of people he went to school with. I love Washington, D.C.'s monuments, but my favorite is this one. It's the Lincoln Memorial. And what draws me to that particular memorial is that I'm a huge, again, presidential history fan. I love reading. My goal is to read a biography on every president of the United States. I'm making pretty good headway. But Lincoln stands out to me. The intestinal fortitude that man had. The fact that he was willing to battle through depression in his life. Oh, thanks. There we go. Hey, everybody's here. Okay, all right. Y'all are here. My wife's pretty awesome. All right. This sermon is going very differently than than first service. If you really want to see the true one, go to first service or watch it again. But I love Lincoln. Love Lincoln. To me, he's just a fascinating figure of history. And there's something so solemn about the Lincoln Monument to sit there and look at his face sitting in that chair, to read on the side of his second inaugural message, just to think about what he went through. As somebody who's been in leadership for quite a while, I love Lincoln because he really makes me think about what my leadership is doing and what I'm willing to do. And if he was willing to go through hard times, what hard times am I willing to go through? What am I willing to endure? And so I could literally sit at the Lincoln Memorial probably for days, I'm pretty sure, but my family usually makes me leave after about 15 or 20 minutes. And I'm never ready to go. I just want to sit there and ponder. And that's the thing about monuments. The thing about monuments is they're supposed to make you think. They're supposed to remind you of something. And this weekend, we're celebrating Memorial Day. A lot of times, veterans get thanked for their service on Memorial Day, and I have no problem with veterans be thanked for their service, but it really isn't the living veterans that we're supposed to be thanking. Memorial Day is about those who never came home. It reminds us of those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country, those people who gave their lives so that other people could have a life of liberty and purpose and the pursuit of happiness. And that's what Memorial Day is really about. A lot of times we kind of rush through it though, don't we? So maybe if you're a fortunate person, you're able to have that extra, make it a 3-day weekend, right? And it's barbecues, and it's the beginning of summer, and Maybe it's a new movie that just came out for the summer, right? And I find a lot of times in life when we're given the opportunity to remember, we just kind of breeze past it quickly. Oh yeah, Memorial Day. Yeah, thanks for your service. Hey, Gold Star families, thank you. If you don't know what a Gold Star family is, it's somebody who lost a loved one, immediate member of their family in service to their country. And by the way, if you are a Gold Star family here today in our worship center, or you're watching this online, thank you. Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for what your loved one means and still means to this country. But we will often breeze through this holiday, and when I was thinking about this, I came across an article by this guy right here. His name is Alex Horton. And Alex wrote an article that was on the VA website. Alex is a veteran of the Iraq War. You see him there in Fallujah. And in the article, he talks about this moment in Fallujah where he lost a very, very close friend of his in combat. His friend's name is Brian Chevalier. And Alex has a steel bracelet with Brian's name engraved on it that he wears around as a constant reminder of Brian, because he doesn't want to forget Brian. And the quote that jumped out at me in this article that Alex wrote for the VA, when he was talking about what Memorial Day is supposed to be, he says, Memorial Day is meant to remind folks of the sacrifice borne by those who fell in battle in defense of the country, as well as their families. But once you lose someone in combat, Memorial Day bleeds across the rest of the calendar. In your life, what bleeds across the rest of the calendar? What events, what moments are more than just a day or a moment, but that they saturate the rest of your life? And how do you memorialize those things? How do you memorialize them? As we celebrate Memorial Day this weekend, it is an opportunity for us to celebrate our country, and it is a moment for us also to use that as a springboard for thinking about how do we memorialize the aspects of our Christian faith that need to be memorialized. How do you remember God's leading? How God has worked in your life? I want to suggest to you 4 different ways that we can memorialize things spiritually. The first one is kind of like the Lincoln Memorial. It's what we would call a monument. It's something that you build and then you go and visit later to remind you of an event that happened. So, an example of this is in the book of Joshua, chapter 3 and 4. And the Israelites have finally been given the green light to go into the promised land. They have been in the wilderness for 40 years. Moses has passed away. Joshua is now leading them, and they get to the edge of the Jordan River, and it's the time of year where the Jordan River is rushing. It is full of water. It's overflowing its banks. And so they are in trouble. How do you get 1 million people across a flooded river? There's no place to cross. And so Joshua tells the priests that are carrying the Ark of the Covenant, he says, put it on your shoulders and I want you to walk into the water with it. And all the people, you get right behind them, we're going. And as soon as the priest's feet touch the water, because they did what they were asked to do, as soon as they touch the water stops flowing, just stops. The priests walk into the middle of the river, and the people are able to cross on dry ground and get across. And when the last person is across, God is still in the middle of the river. By the way, does anybody need God to be in the middle of a river today? And when they're all across, Joshua says to a person from every tribe, he says, I want you to go back into the river. And I want you to get a big rock from the riverbed. So that'll be 12 rocks in all. And I want you to take them, and I want you to pile them up and create a monument. And he goes, and your children are going to ask you, what do these stones mean? And you're going to tell them they remind us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the Ark of the Lord's covenant went across. These stones will stand as a memorial among the people of Israel forever. And my question to you today is, do you have any monuments from when God made rivers stop flowing for you? I was thinking about anything that we might have as an example here in our church. And a couple years ago, I actually asked all of you to take these little pieces of paper and write your prayer requests on them. And they were multicolored pieces of paper. And once we had those, we actually put them in a frame, and then we put a picture of Jesus' face that was translucent over top of it. And your prayers were making up Jesus' face. And if you want to see that, it is actually up on the second floor right next to our offices. And many days I walk past that and I stop and I look at that and I try to find the one that I wrote. Have you done that recently? If you wrote on that piece of paper, have you gone up and taken a look and asked, what did God do with that prayer request that I put there? It's a monument. It's a monument. You're going to have to travel to it. You're going to have to take the elevator or stairwell, get up to the second floor. You're going to have to take a look. But monuments are important. They matter because they remind us. Because when you don't make them, you forget. There's a couple of you today who haven't seen that picture in a long time. You're like, oh yeah, we did do that. And there's a few of you here, or maybe more than a few of you here today, who have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't remember that happening. And it's an opportunity for those of us who we're here to take you and say, hey, look, this is a representation of how this church believes that God answers prayer and Jesus carries our prayers with us. It's an opportunity to pass on to the next generation. Monuments pass on to the next generation. I wasn't alive. I know some of you youngins will think this is surprising. I wasn't alive when Lincoln was around. And so that memorial reminds me of what Lincoln stood for. It points me back. It encourages me to read a biography. So that's one kind of way that we can have memorials, monuments. Another way are objects. Take the communion, for example. We have the bread and we have the wine, right? These are objects. These are objects that are there to remind. The wine is to remind us of Christ's shed blood. The bread, Christ's broken body. They are objects that remind us of something. I'm a big fan of objects as remembrance. It's one of the reasons why every year when we put out our new theme for the year, this year's theme is overflow. That's correct. That's why I give you a chip every year that says overflow on it. And on the back, it has our mission statement as a church. It has our values as a church. And I hand it out to you because one of the things I kind of hope is that you kind of carry it around with you, like I do, in my pocket. And it's just this constant reminder of this is where we're trying to head this year. This is what we're trying to accomplish this year. These are the values. This is the mission. This is what we're about. And it's tangible. It's right there. It reminds you. Another example of one of these kind of objects that I carry around, I have, if you ever try to steal my backpack, don't do that. That's breaking a commandment. But if you were ever to do it, there is a rock that's in a little zippered pocket right here on the strap. Every day when I pick that up and put it on, it reminds me of a sermon that I did probably 7 or 8 or 9 years ago about having a reminder to talk to God every day. And so every day when I pick that up, I can literally feel it in my hand because I put on my backpack, I feel it every day, and it reminds me, hey God, this day at work is yours. Do you have anything like that you use to remember what needs to be remembered spiritually? Do you have objects that you're like, oh yeah, I carry that around with me. It's an object that helps me remember. Along those lines, we can talk about practices. Communion, foot washing, which is a really weird thing that we do in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We practice foot washing. Who does that? Well, we like to think people who follow Jesus do that to be reminded that Christ washed everybody's feet. It's a practice. It reminds us that service is not for the lowly, it's for the leader. Everybody in Christ's kingdom is supposed to be a servant. And so when we do the practice of communion and we get together, we're reminding ourselves of Christ's sacrifice. And we wash each other's feet. We're reminded that Christ didn't just wash the good disciples' feet. He washed Peter's, who's going to deny him 3 times that evening, and Judas, who is betraying him that evening. And that's what true service looks like. Not service to the people that are nice to you, but to the people who are betraying you. And if you don't have those kind of practices, it's easy to let go of that and be like, well, whatever. I mean, it's easy to forget. It's hard to remember unless you are putting practices and objects and monuments into your life. And then the final thing that I want to talk to you about as a memorial is kind of what we're celebrating this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, right? Memorial Day. I'm talking about memorials in time. And here's what I love about memorials in time. Memorials in time are accessible to everyone. Monuments aren't. If you want to see the picture frame of Jesus with your prayer request behind Jesus' face, you're going to have to take a trip to Orlando. You're going to have to go to the 2nd floor of the WholeLife building, and you're going to have to get off the elevator, take a right, and find that picture. You're going to have to do that. That's what you're going to have to do to find the monument. If you want to visit the Lincoln Memorial, you're going to have to go to Washington, D.C. You're going to have to do it. And that doesn't make it accessible to everybody. But the beautiful thing about memorials in time is they are accessible to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're an American in a foreign country, you can celebrate Memorial Day because it's something in time. So in our faith, what kind of memorials in time would there be? Well, as Seventh-day Adventists, you know what I'm going to say. The Sabbath. And what I love about the Sabbath is that when God wanted us to remember that he made us in his image, that God created us, that we're not an accident, that we matter, that there is a God that cares infinitely about us. He didn't set it up as a monument somewhere that you're going to have to travel to. He didn't make it an object that you're going to have to purchase. He put it in time where it was accessible to you no matter who you are. And that's why as Seventh-day Adventists, we are so passionate about the Sabbath. It's not because it somehow makes us holier or makes us better. It just makes us more in alignment with our Creator because we're remembering every week that we are loved and that we are cared for and that we matter to God. That God knows you. It's hard to forget something that you celebrate every week. It's hard to forget a memorial that happens every single week. And I can tell you, Alex Horton remembers Brian Chevalier every day that goes by. And the Sabbath, I hope, reminds us of a God so that the other 6 days that Jesus bleeds into those days. And then we're renewed and reminded and we go out again. And then we come back and we're reminded. So what memorials in time do you have? There's other ones beside this. We celebrate Easter. We celebrate Christmas. We celebrate memorials in time. But one of the things that our family has done is we celebrate our kids' birthdays when they were baptized. We keep the date, and every year we have a party for them on their birthday when they were baptized. I honestly can barely remember what date I was baptized on, but what we wanted our kids to do is remember, I was baptized on this date. It matters. I made a commitment to God. This is when I did it. I celebrate it. So how can you set up memorials in time that help you remember the things that truly, truly matter? This Memorial Day weekend, I'd like to ask you to do a couple things. I'm not prescribing, I'm not saying you have to. I'm suggesting and asking. So for those of you who are anti-authoritarian like I am, I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just making a general suggestion. Take some time this weekend to reflect on what the thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who gave their life for this country, what that represents. Let's be honest for a moment. This country has an imperfect past. We're very aspirational in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We haven't always done a good job of extending that to everyone. But as I look at the arc of history as somebody who loves history, what I see is that each generation does a little bit better than the one before it. Some of you will debate me later, it's fine. And my question is, are we going to be the generation that does a little better, or are we the one that's going to take it backwards? And it's worth thinking about. It's worth thinking about, are we extending human choice and liberty and freedom as the trajectory of this country has been, or are we shutting it down? And this Memorial Day, take some time to think about what you can do to extend the liberties that God designed for humanity to have to all. And by all, I mean all. The second thing I want to ask you to do is, how can you use monuments, objects, practices, and memorials in time in your spiritual faith? I'm not asking you to do a whole bunch of things at one time. Pick one thing. What's one thing you could do? Is there something that's wearable that would remind you? An object? Is there something that you could celebrate? What can you do to start putting memorials in time? Because family, we live in a world that has almost no time for reflection anymore. So how can you make that different? What can you put out there so that you can remember? Remembering matters, and one of the reasons it matters is this quote from Ellen White, one of the founders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and somebody I believe God spoke to. And Ellen said this: "We have nothing to fear for the future, except as we shall forget the way the Lord has led us and his teachings in our past history." Family, if you don't want to live in fear, remember.
Hi, this is Randy McGray, podcast producer and host here at WholeLife Church. Loving people into a lifelong friendship with God is our mission at the WholeLife Church, and our podcasts are designed to help facilitate conversations that help us grow together in that pursuit. Now that you've heard the message for this week, don't forget to check out the WholeLife takeaways for this message. Swipe up in today's show notes and join the conversation. Speaking of conversations, each Wednesday morning we take a closer look at the week's message. That's right, the one you just listened to. We discuss practical ways to apply spiritual lessons and ask honest questions about the issues we face as Christians, all focused through the lens of grace. Your voice is a welcomed addition to that conversation. We encourage your thoughts and your questions by sending a voicemail or text to 407-965-1607 or send an email to podcast@wholelife.church. You can find everything podcast related on our website, wholelife.church/podcast. And plan on spending every Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning with us as we bring you the WholeLife Church inspiration you love straight into your headphones. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.